Today, Sëii-FPV will complete a couple of mandatory updates for some of his latest drone build components. Bear with us please. Video is fairly lengthy, but he wanted to make sure he covered all of the important areas. First part will cover the process of starting up BL Heli application and updating his drone's ESC T-Motor Velox V50A, all 4 of them, since this is 4-in-1 ESC. Second part of this video will cover update of the flight controller, FC. We're talking about Rush Blade F722 Digital. Sëii-FPV will be doing this through, as of now, the latest beta flight version, which is 10.8.0. Once update is completed, he will also go through some beta flight configurator options and do the initial setup. Third part of this video will cover the process of checking all 4 motor spin directions. Sëii-FPV likes it to be props out, reverse motor configuration. He will do all of that in BL Heli again, but also promptly jump to beta flight for a moment. That is, because the newest beta flight now supports motors reordering, propeller spin direction setup, and much more. This time, he will only check if the motor's order is correct, and if necessary, reorder them. Fourth part will cover the binding process of the TBS Crossfire receiver and the Tango 2 controller. Finally, the 5th part of our video will explain the activation process of the Vista unit, updating the Vista, as well as binding it with the DJI Goggles version 2. Dad has also managed to get the video signal out of the goggles into his Android phone through the DigiView application. And he also managed to get that same video signal onto his computer LCD screen through the program called Wide-FPV. Part 1. BL Heli and updating ESCs. First, Sëii-FPV will start up the program called BL Heli Suite 32, connect it to the ESC, do initial check. All seems in good order. Then, he wants to flash his ESC. He picks up the latest BL Heli 32 revision and proceeds with flashing the ESC. Program will ask for confirmations a couple of times. ESC number 1 was flashed successfully. He can proceed with flashing the ESC number 2. Since this process is identical for the rest of the ESCs, we will speed up some parts of this footage. It looks like all 4 ESCs are flashed without any errors. Dad updated them to the BL Heli revision 32.9. He has to do a mandatory restart of the ESC by disconnecting and reconnecting the power connection. One last ESC check. All good. Sëii-FPV just wants to save a screenshot of the configuration, and we're done here. Part 2. Beta flight and updating flight controller. Let's move on to updating of Rush Blade F722 digital flight controller. Of course, we're using beta flight now. Connect the USB cable. We're on a COM port 8. We need to activate the bootloader, DFU mode. It went straight into DFU mode. With his last drone, My dad had to update some drivers first through Zadig application to get it to activate to the DFU mode. This time it was easy. Click on Update Firmware. We need to choose the board. We have Rushblade F722 Digital, but here, it's called Blade F7 HD. Don't mix them up. F7 is for analog, and F7 HD is for the digital version. The current firmware on this flight controller is 4.2.11, and we're about to update it to 4.3.1. Load the firmware from online repository. Firmware is loaded, and we can proceed with flashing this board. We'll speed up this part since it takes some time to complete. My dad is bored while this is going, so he decided to sing. Please stick to building drones, Dad. Thank you. Programming is successful. First, we need to unplug the USB power. When we replug it, FC will be set to factory settings, empty. But Seii-FPV will need to configure it. We need to apply custom defaults. There will always be some warnings, and that's okay. We will need to set up motor output protocol later. An accelerometer should be calibrated before taking your quad to fly. Place it on an even horizontal surface and press Calibrate Accelerometer button. All done. There's a lot of options in Betaflight. We don't have to go through all of them now, but the most important ones, Dad will configure now. First tab is ports. My dad talked about this unique situation with Rushblade F722 Digital. For some strange reason, by default, receiver gets assigned to UART2, even though it's soldered to TX1 and RX1. It needs to be changed manually to UART1. Everybody in forums and online groups confirmed it. Remember, Dad used different components to build this quad, so he had to rewire the connector between the ESC and the FC. He connects his ESC to RX/TX3, so it's UART3. He also connected his Vista to RX/TX4, so it's UART4. All is good. Save and reboot. Configuring ports is done. We're in the configuration tab now. Seii-FPV will leave some options for now and come back to change them at some other time. Here, you can type your craft name. Maximum arm angle. We'll put 180 degrees here. If we're ever up in some tree, upside down, we will still be able to arm our quad and try to get it out of there. We'll fly through some options here. Personal preference and depends on what your components support. Some of these options we won't be touching for now. Save and reboot. We will leave PID tuning for now. It's basically a science, and it requires a separate video on the subject. My dad will leave it to the professionals and come back to this when he understands it more. Receiver. We still have not connected it. My dad is about to, later in this video. For now, he will turn the telemetry on, and of course, change the serial receiver provider to Crossfire. RC deadband and yaw deadband, we will set to 3. Almost everyone is doing it this way, but my dad's good friend Roman, YouTube channel called Fly Dive Drive, suggested he should set it to 3, so my dad took his advice. By the way, you should check out Roman's channel, it's amazing. Unplug the USB one more time. My dad will set up the modes now. Since he has screenshots of the modes tab configuration he did on his other 2 drones, and he does want to keep them identical, he will follow those screenshots to set up this tab. So, we have arm, angle, horizon, beeper, and pre-arm all set up and ready to go. Motors tab. We will leave it as Quad X. Motor direction, my dad will set to reversed. Props out. Now, we get a chance to set up that motor protocol Betaflight was complaining about at the start. He can set it to D-Shot 600, but he will set it to the D-Shot 300 for now. It's a safe bet. He will also enable bidirectional D-Shot, save and reboot. Connect. OSD. Once again, my dad likes it to be identical as it is in his other 2 quads. He will copy the settings from some screenshots he took earlier. Save. All configured. Black box. We can leave it on 1 kHz. Black box debug mode. Pick gyro scaled option. That's it for now. One thing is left only. Inside the presets tab, my dad will save backup. All these options will be saved in one text file, so if he ever resets his quad to the factory defaults, at least he does not have to set up everything from scratch again. Let's check if it's stored on his hard drive. Yup, it sure is here. Part 3. BL Heli and checking the motor's order. Now, moving on to BL Heli once again. Seii-FPV will check the motor's spin direction. Remember, he likes it as props out, reversed motor rotation. He is checking all 4 motors, one at a time. Pay attention to the slow-mo version to spot the motor rotation direction easier. Dad made these little arrow animations to make it even easier for you. Yup, it's definitely a props out configuration. Quickly going back to beta flight to check the motor's order. Application spins each motor, one by one, in the correct order. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Dad must click on the motor that currently spins. Once clicked, application starts spinning the next motor in line. It is important to have your quad facing away from you in order to see the motor's order properly. Part 4. Crossfire binding with Tango 2. As we can see in the background, LED on the Crossfire receiver is blinking green. It means it's ready to bind with the controller. Let's turn on the Tango 2.
Welcome to Tango 2.
Long press the menu button and go into TBS Agent Light submenu. Click on Tango 2 XF. Very first option at the top is bind. Now we have to wait. It asks us if we want to perform the update of the nano receiver. Of course, we want to. Process takes some time, so we'll speed it up. binding process is completed. Note the red LED still in the background. That's because it is recommended to power cycle receiver and the radio. Let's turn the radio back on.
Welcome to Tango 2.
And we're in. Tango 2 and the receiver are bound. Now, when we go back to TBS Agent Light, we're greeted with additional menu option. That's our freshly bound TBS Crossfire Nano receiver. Inside, my dad wants to change just one option. Mode, from 8 channels to 12 channels. With his last quadcopter, he wanted to add some additional modes in beta flight, and wasn't able due to the 8-channel limitation. Setting it to 12 solves that problem. All on latest versions. Quickly going back to beta flight. Receiver tab. And everything works perfectly. This is so interesting and addictive in the same time. Who knows? One day my dad might let me fly one of his quadcopters. I am already pretty good in simulators, so that could be my entrance ticket. I might even start building these amazing flying machines now when I understand everything much better. Part 5. Vista unit, activation, update and binding. My dad is about to perform activation of Vista, update it to the latest version if needed, and bind it to his DJI goggles version 2. This is also the very first time my dad connects his latest drone creation to the power source. If it's not done correctly, many things could go wrong. He was very careful when building it, and he is still very cautious. When plugging his quads for the first time, he always uses ViFly ShortSaver V2. That is one amazing device. Think of it as a fuse. Nice! This little nimble quad also sounds like a playful little bird. Now, we're going to try to bind DJI goggles with the drone. I like this tune. Power up the goggles. We will use a small finishing nail to press the bind button in our goggles. Some users reported that they have to press it only one time, and some say it requires 2 quick presses. On the Vista unit, there's a tiny button. In order to bind it with the goggles, we need to press that button. Success! In less than a second, our goggles and the Vista unit are bound. Vista unit is still not activated, so we need to do that too. Let's check our goggles first and if they need an update. Plug the USB cable into the goggles. And the other end into free USB port on your PC. Start DJI Assistant 2 FPV series application. goggles are activated and up to date. No update required. Time to activate Vista unit. We will plug the USB cable into Vista unit on our drone, and the other end into our PC. We are ready to update Vista. Start DJI Assistant 2 FPV series again. It found FPV Air Unit Light, and that's our Vista. Dad will activate it now. Activation success. Even though firmware update is not required at this time, my dad just wants to perform a firmware refresh. Update/refresh completed. That's it. And we're done. Part 6. Video signal out of DJI goggles. My dad had quite some trouble getting this video signal out of DJI goggles, even though he carefully followed some tutorials online. He managed to solve that one too. He got the video out to his Android phone through DigiView app. And he also managed to get the signal through to his PC screen using Wide FPV application on his desktop. The quality of the video signal is amazing, and the latency is almost non-existent. This makes my dad super happy. Thank you so much for watching our video. We truly hope you enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed making it. Happy flying!